What's up everybody, it's Jeremy here from Ocean Bound, and dude, I'm so frustrated. I had like a sick session the other day. I went to Point Judith and the conditions were pretty sweet. I only go to Point Judith when there's like south or maybe a little southeast swell and the waves are at least 10 to 12 feet. And they were. The FX called for, I think, like 11 to 12 feet at 8 to 10 second periods. Most of the time, I'm there, we ride with like longer period swells. And sometimes, you know, it's as big and other times it's bigger. So, you know, but longer period swells usually means that the waves aren't as steep. So when I saw 8 to 10 seconds on the forecast, I was stoked. It was going to be pretty cool and probably steeper waves than I'd usually see. Let me take a second to explain, you know, where we ride at Point Judith. The actual point where Point Judith Lighthouse is located is nearby, and that's where there's like a surf break. That's not where we're riding. What we ride is within this like 3-mile long breakwater that creates like a large sheltered bay, which is intended as a harbor refuge, you know, for ships that are going between like New York and Boston when the weather's totally gnarly. It has 2 inlets. The eastern inlet faces south and the western inlet kind of faces like west-southwest. So when the swell is big and it comes from the south, it enters the bay at this, you know, southern inlet, which is about 1,000 feet across. And then the swell kind of like dissipates and gets smaller and cleans up, especially, you know, if the wind is coming from the south or let's say the southeast. From the inlet, the waves travel to shore, and there's even like a surf break on the inside where it starts to get shallow. But it's shallow over rocks, and wingers will not be stoked if they ride too far in. You can get stuck in the impact zone and it's just too shallow to get back on the foil. But you can ride the shoulders in either direction and the waves stand up just really nice in that area. So in general, you can get some really long, sweet rides from that inlet all the way into where they're breaking. But the waves aren't necessarily steep. So let's say the forecast is predicting 14, 16 foot waves with 16-second periods. On the inside, it's more like foiling down a green ski slope than riding a wave. But make no mistake, they're just giant mounds of water and just, you know, a ton of energy. So you need a fast and efficient foil to accelerate down them. But there are bombs, and you know, it's just such a rush to be riding things so big in a relatively kind of clean, like chill environment. Okay, so this sesh, I was stoked to be on the Armstrong HA 580 with the 140 Darktail fully shipped. I'm so stoked to be on this setup. I ripped it up. Over 3 hours straight, 35 miles of smiles. And then I came and I looked at the footage.
There is a meaning buried within the sound.
So this is a phenomenon that happens with GoPros. They're just wave killers, and it doesn't help that it was foggy and the light was just totally flat. But to you viewing, I get it. it's not impressive. And my friends, you know, they know how big it was, and you can kind of tell sometimes how big they were when you realize like how big some of my buds are size-wise to what they're riding. But I don't expect you to believe me when I say that there were waves that we were dropping in on that were like at least 10 feet. And these happen to be steeper than what I'm used to, having shorter period swells. I was dropping in on stuff that got my heart racing so fast. You know, my watch out there registered 29.2 miles per hour, you know, going down the biggest bomb of the day. But once I downloaded it on the app, for some reason the fastest said it was 27.1 miles per hour. But that's still fast for being 100% on wave power. So trust me, I personally hate it when people overestimate wave size, and I'm very careful when I do. It's not a science, but you know, I tend to look at the waves and compare how much higher they are compared to like my head or my eye level, and you know, I try to be real and accurate. But I reached out to my buddy Rich, Clark, Big Wave Dave to kind of get a consensus of how big they thought the waves were. And I feel like all three of them are kind of similar to me, that they give like accurate, you know, if not underestimate the wave height. So peak to trough, Big Wave Dave, he said that they were 8 feet, maybe bigger. He was riding on the shoulders because he was just getting back to winging after a couple months off. Legit, cool, respect. Clark, well, he just recently moved from New Zealand, and you know, when I first met him, he said, I just want to ride the biggest waves that I can. Well, he said the New Zealand crew would have called them 3 feet with the odd solid set. Oh man, I mean, that's kind of awesome in its own way. I'm still wrapping my brain around that. But my buddy Rich, he said 9 to 11-ish, and he was kite foiling right in the most gnarly sections, just fully charging it. So there you go. I personally would say 9 or 10 feet, and there were probably some bombs that were out closer towards the inlet that I would say were a little bigger. As you can see from the footage, I'm totally stoked. We all were, you know, it was just so much fun dropping in on these bombs. But I wasn't doing any like technical carving, but man, it was just great to like rip and feel some speed. Nothing like watching a friend drop in on something massive in front of you and see the look on their face, you know, as you're heading back out to catch another one. It's awesome. Or like being on a party wave, you know, or sometimes dropping in while Rich is literally dropping in on the same wave next to me, sitting down on his board. It was totally epic. The 580 was great, and the MA 800 or the HA 725 would have also been great choices for this type of situation. It's all about letting the wave accelerate you, and those foils would be, you know, great for that job. So that's really it. It was a super awesome, huge point and shoot of the day that the GoPro basically made look flat. And that's just frustrating because I want to show you guys how amped I was and how awesome it was. And I just feel like the footage doesn't come anywhere close to doing that justice. And I know many of you won't believe me, and I get it, but it is what it is, and hey, I was just totally stoked. So, thanks for watching, everyone. If you want to see some more of my videos and you haven't done so already, please consider clicking that subscribe button. Drop me a comment. Are GoPros wave killers for you? I want to know. And how do you guys measure waves? You know, I'm super curious about that. I'm kind of like a trough to a peak kind of guy. Maybe that's weird. With that, I hope all of you guys are doing well out there. I'll see you guys soon on the flip, and I wish you all an awesome day. Later. Woo! That was so sick! Oh my gosh, everybody.